Gee, I think Grant just went over everything I was going to go over. Uh, yeah, certainly the Play4Kay game here and the ones that are played across the country are really, really important to me because of Sherry's journey. But because of that, when you go through that process with someone you love, you learn a lot about other people that have that battle, and you learn a lot about a lot of things. We got involved with Mary Bird Perkins, and we were involved with Coleman for a while, and then I was blessed to be given an opportunity to work for the KL Cancer Fund, and there's so many good things that are going on. We've raised close to $9 million for grants and research. We do a lot of work with the underserved, providing uh, mammograms for women who don't have insurance or don't have the financial needs. We've also raised awareness. My wife is alive because of early detection. And so I think when we get an opportunity to play games like this, there's a lot of good things. And as Grant mentioned, Sherry and I will donate $1 for every student that comes to the game. I've done that ever since we've had it, but this is the first time I've been someplace where we're going to have a boatload of students. I mean, I'm really excited about the check I get to write.
I want to say this. Coach Al was my assistant Olympic coach, and I send a check every year. That's just important, just like I do to the Pat Summit deal every year. And I just thought his background and what he has done for KYAL behind the scenes, it needed to be told.
Bob, not to take anything away from the moment that we're in, but just the game that you just played. You've been around the men's and the women's games for a long time. Just what did it mean to you to see such an atmosphere, such an environment, and celebrate the women's game to the level that it is right now?
Well, I think it means a lot to all of us, and I know Coach Mulkey feels the same. We're seeing that around the country. Certainly at South Carolina, it's another level, but it was reminiscent of Tennessee and Connecticut, and to be honest, we're right there with it. There's been two sellout games in the Southeastern Conference this year, one here with LSU and one on the road with LSU. So anytime you get an opportunity to see live and in person the growth of the game and people getting excited about it, it means everything. It's the most important thing that I think we're doing is trying to grow our game.
Kim, after looking at film of the game, did you have any second thoughts about anything that you haven't said yet?
I haven't watched that film. I have watched several films of Ole Miss. There will come a time and a day when I sit with each of them, or Bob will sit with them individually. We gave them off yesterday. Had we had yesterday, we would have watched it. But I don't need to go back. I know what I saw. I know what took place, and you need to let some time elapse, and then you get in teaching mode.
Yeah, just early on, looking at Ole Miss, obviously Shakira Austin, high draft pick last year. They're 8-4 now. Just what do they do well this year, and how are they different from last year?
I'm going to let Bob talk to you about that. I'm going to tell you what we're going to present to them. They are very good off the dribble. They're not as big with her gone now, but yet they're winning. They have adjusted. Baker, those kids are talented. They are very confident right now, and if you look at the scores of the people they've played in non-conference, Utah, what was it, a 1-2-point game, Oklahoma, 2-point game. They haven't played us. They haven't played South Carolina yet, but they've taken care of business in the SEC to put themselves in a position to finish in the top 4. We've done the same. So this is a very important game. It's not any more important to them than it is to us.
Kim, and kind of following that up, just I guess you guys hadn't really hit the court today for practice yet, but when you've had a chance to get around the ladies, just kind of where they are mentally, their approach, and
well,
how
we were
they've
only
been.
around them after the game, so you know what that probably was. We were not with them at all yesterday. We can't even watch film with them on days off. So we'll find out more today and tomorrow, and I would imagine they're going to bounce back. Competitors do. The game is not going to be a reflection of what happened in the last game. I've said this, February is a grind. It will be a grind these last 4 games, and it will have nothing whatsoever to do with the outcome of the South Carolina game. It's everybody's just trying to win one more.
Yeah, I guess you may have just answered it, but is that the challenge? Is that the challenge you'll present to them? Just look, that game is different. It's done, whatever, and now
They know that. I presented that before the game was ever played. I didn't make the game too big. I said, it's a grind. We're trying to finish February, these last 4 games. Those same teams we're playing are trying to win one more themselves to finish high and to get an NCAA bid.
Bob, what does it mean to you that you're here right now, next to Kim doing this deal? Obviously, a lot of coaches probably wouldn't, necessarily let their assistants talk in this manner. She's asking you for scouting reports, those kinds of things, in front of us kind of stuff. What does it mean that she has that much confidence in you? She's talked a lot about you being, the head coach that doesn't want to be the head coach kind of deal, but obviously a lot of trust in you.
Well, it would be hard for me to put into words. The opportunity to come home, coach at LSU, to work for an iconic head coach who's a pioneer and has done so much. It's everything I could possibly ask for. The only regret I have is I wish I could have worked for her when I was young, because I can't imagine how smart I would be then, because I've learned so much in 7 months, which I knew I was going to. I knew I was going to learn. I didn't know what I was going to learn. Everything from the practice structure, her messaging to the team, the execution of an office, the way we recruit, it is at such an elite level. I feel really blessed to be here at this stage in my career.
Yeah, Coach Starkey.
Let me say something about that. If you followed my career, I'm so confident in what I do that I want to stay on top of everything. He's not the first guy I brought to a press conference with me. If you'll remember, Leon Barmore worked for me for 3 years at Baylor. I have had 4 head coaches leave their jobs and come work for me. A lot of head coaches who are insecure don't do that. That is done for a lot of reasons. One, I want to make sure I stay sharp. Number 2, I don't want yes people around me. And number 3, I think that sometimes if I see something and I think I'm right, it helps to have someone who has sat in a head coach's chair. I have always brought coaches that understand the tough decisions you have to make as a head coach, and it keeps me young. It helps me stay in the game longer. So while Bob is here, look, I did that with Barmore, I did that with Bill Brock, I did that with Satia Messer, Toya Wilson. I've always had head coaches on my staff, and I just think that is it's just an asset. So go ahead, I'm sorry.
Yeah, Coach Starkey. Well, first, your thoughts on Ole Miss, kind of bouncing off what Coach Mulkey said, and then secondly, just has anything surprised you about this year? The 23-0 start. Coach Mulkey's talked about how surprising that's kind of been, how it's all come about.
Well, the thing about Ole Miss is they're very quick and they're very athletic, and they have great length. I think they're one of the best defensive teams in the country. I think it'll be a very fast-paced game. They like to run. We like to run. They're aggressive defensively. We're aggressive defensively. I think it'll be an entertaining game. I think it'll come down to our ability to take care of the ball and do the job that we do on the boards. Get back to being a dominating rebounding team after our last time out. As far as surprises, I'm a kind of I'm a one day at a time guy. So I never sit back before the season and say, I think we'll be 23-1 or we'll be 22-2. I never think in those terms. I just think about, what do we need to do today to make the program a little bit better. And as I've gone through this process, I know I keep saying this, but I know why Baylor won national championships. I now know why we are where we are, because I see the attention to detail and the relentless effort to do the little things and make sure everything's done proper. So if I knew then what I knew now, I wouldn't be surprised. But it's been enjoyable to watch the process.
Kim, do you feel like you need to get your shooters more active? I know it was a matchup nightmare, it would be for anybody, but do you feel like you need to get more perimeter shooting?
Hell, we needed shooting at every position. I didn't care if it was the perimeter or the post. Hell, it could have been out of bounds. I don't care. Listen, that one blimp during the season, none of y'all sat here and thought we could win that game. What we didn't know is just how bad we were going to get beat. Nobody knows that till you play. That stage was so good and so big for our program. Now, look, I don't like getting my butt handed to you on national television, but that's not the first time. That's a part of the learning process. Jalen Hurts said it best after the Super Bowl. He didn't say some win, some lose. He said you win and you learn. Well, he's going to go learn. And that's the approach I'm going to have in that locker room with him today. What did you learn? What can you do better? Was the moment too big for you? If it was, tell me why. It was good for our program. It was good. It's the next step in where we're trying to go. And those kids aren't going to be devastated in there. They're going to be, disappointed, but you move on. But, yeah, you needed scoring from everybody. We didn't get it. And you need to credit South Carolina for that. They played, I'm telling you, they played good. And their defense, they're just strong, they're big, they're tough, they're physical. You give them credit.
Again, one of the main storylines ahead of this past Sunday was the Angel versus Aaliyah kind of angle there. I guess after that, just kind of what's your thoughts on just I know Angel has a legitimate shot at National Player of the Year, but kind of where does she stand in that after Sunday?
Well, you hate to see storylines where it's one kid versus another kid, but I get it. It makes for good hype. They're two different kind of players, totally different kind of players that had to go head to head a little bit in that game, and it wasn't fair to either one of them. Angel will quickly tell you that, she needed to do more, and sometimes she tried to do too much. But again, we will be better if we get a chance to play them again, and I think individual players will be better. I don't know if the outcome will be different, but what I do know is we're going to learn from that. Alexis Morris was dynamite. Alexis Morris, just was shooting lights out. But you can't beat those types of teams with just Alexis Morris, or two of them, or three. It takes everybody. And Player of the Year, honestly, it usually goes to the best team, somebody who's got the best team. That's who usually gets it. And she's on a team where she doesn't have to have these dynamic numbers. Could she have them? Well, yeah, but they don't need her to have dynamic numbers. We have had an unbelievable stretch with Angel, and we hope we keep getting that production from her. You have a senior, and Angel potentially is really just a sophomore. So she could have 2 more years in college. So I think it was a learning experience for her as well.
Kim, any thoughts on the numbers coming out of the game? The loss didn't hurt your net. It actually improved your RPI, for what that's worth, 5 points. It didn't really hurt you on the seed line, probably. So can you take, like I said, you don't like to get beat, but does it help to take some positives from that?
That's as far from my mind as anything, Scott, because really at the end of the day, those committee members that sit in there, they're going to have their opinions about non-conference strength of schedule. If you're holding that against us, then you're going to hold it against us if our net was 1. It really doesn't matter to me. What I would just like to do is host a first and second round game here and keep winning. We'll do that for you. And if it doesn't, then we're not going to change the committee's mind.
follow up, y'all were a number 5 national seed
Oh.
in the first reveal last week before the game. So
So
that shows that you're
what are we ranked today? 5?
5 in
And
the
we're a
AP.
national seed of,
well, y'all were 5, but we don't know what it would be.
yeah, I
but-
don't.
But it maybe goes to show that maybe that's not hurting you as much as a lot of us experts out here
Yeah, I
outside of
don't-
basketball think.
I really don't even think about that. I don't. You told me about net in a press conference, and because the coaches don't come and talk about that. What we're thinking about is that next ball game. And I'll say it again. If we were to have beaten South Carolina, would we have jumped to the 1 line? I doubt it, because the non-conference strength of schedule is not going to change. And that would have been the only team ranked that we would have played, right, and beaten, or yeah, at the time. So I don't know that it matters. You have 16 committee members sitting there, and they all have criteria that they look at, and they all feel certain ways. I quit investing my time into all those scenarios a long time ago, because I have been where I don't understand that. I'll never forget. We go into the NCAA playoffs and have to be playing Texas A&M for the 4th time. And we'd already played them 3 times in conference. Oh, for the good of the game is why we did it. And we lose, and they go on and win their first national championship. So I think I've just been around so long, I don't invest much time in things that I can't have a say in. And you just take what's given to you, and you don't complain, and you don't really gripe anymore. Maybe that's age. Maybe that's I'm just wiser. I don't know. But I don't even think about that stuff anymore.
I got one for Kim and one for Bob. Just how good was it to get some young girls some time? Shemaya, Bartlett.
I thought Samaya Smith, Alexis Morris obviously, but Samaya Smith gave you some good minutes. I think in the last 2 to 3 weeks she has given us valuable minutes, and it's great. She certainly, in different timeouts the other day, I'd have to build her back up when she would get buried down there and get pushed and shoved and scored on, and you just keep reminding her, you're a freshman. That's a 5th-year COVID senior. Your day will come. Remember this. Learn from it. Now let's move on, And you liked that she was bothered by feeling like she let her team down. But you have to put them out there. And Samaya is just really a good player, and you're starting to see it.
And Bob, just how is Sherry now, and what do these games mean for her? Obviously, it hits at a much deeper level than any of us can deal with, right?
Sherry's great. She's beyond her 10-year point of being cancer-free, beyond the point where she doesn't even see an annual doctor anymore. Of course, she had a double mastectomy, which took her chances of breast cancer returning down to 2%. It had been 40% from her BRCA report. So she's doing great. But anytime these games happen, she appreciates what schools are doing, what communities are doing. That's, she's always been active and involved in a lot of things within the community, because she understands the importance of awareness, especially with early detection, and the funds that are being raised for treatments and hopefully a cure one day. So, she smiled. We could be watching a game on TV, and it happens to be the Play4Kay game, and we'll talk about it. When you go through something like that, and let me say this about the KL Cancer Fund. It's just not about breast cancer. The KL Cancer Fund fights all cancers that affect women. So I think that's important. But she's always pleased and proud when these things come up.
Your thoughts, both of you, on the Sue Gunter's name being named to the court, please.
That's why I brought him. I can give my opinion, but really my opinion is going to always be based on people in the know. And he is my person in the know, so I'm going to let him answer that.
Well, personally, I'm incredibly pleased and proud. I worked for both Dale and for both Sue, and They were very influential in my life. I know how influential they were in other lives. I know the impact that they've played on people on the court and off the court. And I know when I walk out on that floor next year and I see their names side by side, I'm going to swell with pride. I'll probably be emotional the first time. I think it's special. I'm disappointed that it happened the way that it happened. I feel bad a little bit for Dale because he kind of got, dragged through this a little bit because an overzealous supporter kind of tried to go through the back end and circumvent the process. And then, of course, Coach Gunter's supporters, they wanted to make sure that they were recognized. So I thought it got a little bit nasty. But I think the end result is right. I think it's fair. I think both of them are incredibly deserving. I think certainly it's been real well chronicled, everything that Dale's accomplished on the court and off the court, which is phenomenal. Just amazing. What sometimes is lost is what Coach Gunter did, because there wasn't great media coverage in those days. People don't have a great appreciation unless you rolled your sleeves up beside her and got things done. But you're talking about an iconic pioneer. You go back to her playing days when she was an All-American and won national championships at Nashville Business. She started a program at Middle Tennessee. She's still the winningest head coach at Stephen F. Austin. And then she came here and did what she did. She was an Olympic coach. She was involved in USA basketball for years. When David Stern wanted to form the WNBA, Coach Gunter was one of 10 people. He flew to New York and housed so they could figure out how they were going to start a league. And when the powers that be, who I have great respect for it, Naismith came calling, they called for her. The thing that people will not understand and is how difficult it was to coach women's basketball at LSU back during that time when you had an administration that didn't care. And not only didn't care, but sometimes created obstacles. It was very tough. And a lot of people didn't know because Sue wasn't one that screamed and yelled or, hollered Title IX. She used to have this thing she used to tell us all the time. I don't care how rough the shore is, just get the damn boat to the shore. So she is an amazing lady for what she accomplished here. Some of the things that we're doing here have come about because of the seeds that she planted. And I think that's what a legacy is about, is the seeds you've planted. It's not just doing something at the moment that's great. It's doing something that's going to last. And, I've heard a couple people say, I don't think Sue would. Well, let me explain this to you. Let me be very clear about this. I knew Sue before I knew Dale. Sue came to West Virginia and recruited one of my AAU players. And I was so impressed by her that when my kid came down for an official visit, I bought an airline ticket because I wanted to come down and see what it was all about. And from that became a friendship. Back in those days, when I came to work for Dale, all our offices were on the same floor right there in front of the Pete Maravich Assembly Center. And there wasn't a day that I didn't stop by and talk to her. And we became friends. And then I was blessed to get an opportunity to work for her. And I lived a half a mile from her. My favorite parts of that was being able to go over to her house and share a glass of wine and talk about anything and everything. I was standing by her bed when she took her last breath. So I'm going to tell you what I think Sue Gunter would think. I think she'd be a little embarrassed at what a big deal this ended up being. I think she'd be a little upset that the process was circumvented and it wasn't done fairly. But I think she'd be incredibly proud and honored to have her name there, not just because it's her name, because it represents players and coaches and the growth of women's basketball at a place where it never been done before. Sue Gunter would be proud to have her name on that floor.
Any more questions? Thank you, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.